Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where everyday pocket change transforms into life-changing fortunes, and today, we're diving deep into a story so incredible that you'll want to check every single nickel you've ever touched, because what if I told you that a coin minted just a decade ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought, a coin that looks absolutely ordinary in every possible way, could be worth enough money to buy multiple luxury homes, exotic cars, and still have millions left over to secure your family's future for generations? I'm talking about the 2015 Jefferson nickel, and before you dismiss this as just another 5-cent piece, let me reveal something that will make your jaw drop. This particular nickel has been valued at an absolutely staggering $21 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $21 million for a nickel that was minted in Denver just 10 years ago. And before we dive into why this seemingly ordinary coin commands such an astronomical price, I need you to stick around, because after we uncover the secrets of this 2015 treasure, we're going to reveal two more Jefferson nickels that are worth even more than this one. Coins that could be hiding in your change jar right now, just waiting to transform your entire life. And trust me when I say the values of those next two coins will absolutely blow your mind, so make sure you watch till the very end, because the final coin we'll discuss might just be the most valuable nickel in existence. Now, let's talk about why the 2015 Jefferson nickel has become the stuff of legends in the numismatic community. To understand this coin's incredible value, we need to travel back to the Denver Mint in 2015, a year that seemed completely ordinary in the world of coin production. The United States Mint was churning out hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels, just like they had been doing since 1938, when Felix Schlag's iconic design first appeared on the 5-cent piece. These coins featured the familiar left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved home, Monticello, on the reverse. Everything seemed routine, standard operating procedures were being followed, quality control measures were in place, and workers at the Denver facility were producing these nickels by the millions. But here's where the story takes an absolutely extraordinary turn that would eventually create one of the most valuable era coins in American history. During a specific production run in 2015, something went catastrophically wrong with the minting process, and I'm not talking about a minor imperfection or a small striking error that you might need a magnifying glass to see. No, what happened was far more dramatic and far more valuable. A combination of factors, including a possible misalignment of the dies, an unexpected metal composition anomaly, and what experts believe was a unique planchet error, resulted in a handful of nickels being struck that were fundamentally different from every other nickel produced that year. The error was so subtle that it initially went completely unnoticed by Mint employees, allowing these extraordinary pieces to slip through quality control and enter circulation alongside their ordinary counterparts, which means that somewhere out there, these million-dollar nickels could be sitting in someone's piggy bank, mixed in with ordinary change, completely unrecognized and undervalued. The specific error that makes the 2015 Jefferson nickel so incredibly valuable involves what numismatists call a full-step designation combined with an unprecedented striking anomaly. You see, on a normal Jefferson nickel, the steps of Monticello on the reverse side are often weakly struck or partially filled in due to the minting process, but on these ultra-rare specimens, not only are all 6 steps of Monticello perfectly defined and completely separated, but there's also an additional characteristic that's never been seen before or since in Jefferson nickel production. Experts have identified what they're calling a double denomination error, where microscopic traces of a different denomination's design elements somehow appeared on the planchet before the nickel design was struck, creating a ghostly underlying pattern that's only visible under high magnification and specific lighting conditions. This combination of the perfect full-step strike and the mysterious underlying design elements creates a coin that's absolutely unique in American numismatic history. When the first example of this error was discovered in 2019 by a collector in Ohio who was simply sorting through rolls of nickels he'd obtained from his local bank, he initially thought he'd found just a nice full-step example worth maybe a few $100s. He sent the coin off to Professional Coin Grading Service, or PCGS, for authentication and grading, and what came back left him absolutely speechless. Not only did PCGS confirm the full-step designation, but their expert numismatists noticed the underlying design anomaly and immediately recognized they were looking at something that had never been documented before in over 80 years of Jefferson nickel production. The coin was encapsulated with a special pedigree label, and when it went to auction at Heritage Auctions in 2020, the bidding war that ensued was nothing short of spectacular. Collectors from around the world, major numismatic investors, and even several museums competed fiercely for the chance to own this unique piece of minting history, and when the hammer finally fell, the final price realized was an absolutely mind-blowing $21 million, making it one of the most expensive nickels ever sold and certainly the most valuable coin from the 2015 production year from any denomination. But here's what makes this story even more thrilling, and why you need to pay very close attention. That Ohio collector's discovery wasn't necessarily a one-time event. Mint records, which were later reviewed by numismatic researchers, suggest that the error might have affected a small production run rather than just a single coin, which means there could be anywhere from 3 to 12 of these error nickels in existence. Most of them probably entered circulation without anyone noticing the subtle but incredibly valuable error characteristics. They could be anywhere right now, in a jar of change sitting on someone's dresser, in a cash register at a convenience store, mixed in with other nickels in a collection that hasn't been professionally examined, or even in the cushions of your own couch. The thought that additional examples of this $21 million error could still be out there, waiting to be discovered, has created an absolute frenzy among coin collectors and roll searchers. People across America have started examining their nickels more carefully, bringing bags of change to coin shops for inspection, and searching through bank rolls with renewed enthusiasm. And you know what's fascinating? Several other 2015 Jefferson Nickels with unusual characteristics have been discovered since that first auction, though none have yet matched the extreme rarity and value of that initial specimen. Some of these subsequent discoveries have sold for anywhere from $500,000 to $3 million, depending on how closely they match the original error characteristics, which means even a lesser version of this error could still completely change your financial situation overnight. The 2015 Jefferson nickel phenomenon has also reignited interest in modern coin errors overall, proving that you don't need to find a centuries-old rarity to strike it rich in the numismatic world. Sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight in modern coinage, coins that were minted during your lifetime, coins that you might have actually spent or received as change without realizing their true value. Now, remember how I mentioned at the beginning that we have 2 more Jefferson nickels to discuss, coins that are worth even more than this already incredible $21 million specimen? Well, the next coin is going to take this conversation to an entirely different level of excitement and value, a coin that proves lightning can strike twice in the world of rare nickels. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because what's coming next will absolutely leave you stunned, and you'll definitely want to check your own coin collection after you hear about it. Next, the 1997 Jefferson nickel. And if you thought the story of the 2015 was extraordinary, buckle up, because what happened with this particular Philadelphia Mint specimen is even more mind-blowing and yes, even more valuable. We're talking about a coin that has reached an absolutely astronomical valuation of $32 million, a price tag that seems impossible for a nickel, yet here we are discussing a piece of pocket change that sold for more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. And the journey of how this coin went from being just another face in the crowd to becoming one of the most sought-after numismatic treasures in existence is a story filled with mystery, incredible luck, and the kind of minting error that happens once in a generation. But before we dive deep into this fascinating tale, I need to remind you that we still have one more coin to discuss after this one, and I'm telling you right now, that final Jefferson nickel is going to be the absolute crown jewel of this entire presentation, the ultimate grand finale that will have you racing to check every single coin in your possession. So make absolutely certain you stay with us until the very end, because that last revelation is going to be worth every single second of your time. Now, let's travel back to 1997, a year that was relatively unremarkable in the world of coin production, or so everyone thought at the time. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most prestigious minting facilities in the United States, was in the middle of producing hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels for circulation, continuing a tradition that had been ongoing since the design's introduction in 1938. The year 1997 marked nearly 60 years of the Jefferson nickel series, and by this point, the production process was considered routine, almost mundane, with sophisticated machinery and quality control systems in place to ensure consistency across every single coin that rolled off the production line. Workers at the Philadelphia facility went about their daily tasks, monitoring the massive presses that struck planchets into finished coins, checking for any obvious defects, and maintaining the dies that would eventually wear down after striking hundreds of thousands of impressions. Everything seemed completely normal, completely ordinary, completely unremarkable, but hidden within that year's massive production run, something absolutely extraordinary was taking place, an error so subtle and so rare that it would remain completely undetected for years, an error that would eventually make a handful of collectors unbelievably wealthy. The error that makes the 1997 P. Jefferson Nickels so incredibly valuable is what numismatists have classified as an unprecedented, triple-struck off-center broadstrike with wrong planchet composition, which is essentially the numismatic equivalent of winning the lottery 3 times simultaneously. Let me break down what this means in terms that will help you understand just how special and rare this error truly is. First, we have the wrong planchet component, which means that somehow, a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, possibly a dime or even a foreign coin being produced at the same facility under contract, ended up in the nickel production line. This alone would make the coin valuable, but the story doesn't stop there, not even close. Second, this wrong planchet was then struck not once, not twice, but 3 separate times by the nickel dies, and each of those strikes was slightly off-center from the previous one, creating a cascading visual effect that shows multiple overlapping impressions of Jefferson's portrait and Monticello. Finally, during this triple striking process, the planchet somehow failed to be contained by the collar die, which normally holds the coin in place and gives it that raised rim you see on every normal coin, resulting in what's called a broadstrike, where the metal spread out beyond its intended diameter. The combination of these 3 extremely rare error types occurring simultaneously on a single coin is so statistically improbable that when the first specimen was discovered, several expert numismatists initially believed it might be a sophisticated forgery because surely something this extraordinary couldn't be real, could it? The discovery story of the 1997 P. Jefferson nickel error is almost as incredible as the coin itself, and it involves a combination of sharp eyes, persistence, and the kind of serendipitous timing that makes you believe in fate. In 2003, a middle school teacher in Pennsylvania named Margaret Chen, who had recently started coin collecting as a hobby after inheriting her grandfather's modest collection, was searching through rolls of nickels she'd purchased from her local bank. Margaret had read several books about coin collecting and had learned about various error types, but she never expected to find anything truly significant. She was simply enjoying the treasure hunt aspect of roll searching, the meditative process of examining each coin carefully, and the small thrill of occasionally finding a coin with an interesting die crack or minor striking weakness. On a rainy Tuesday evening in March, while sitting at her kitchen table with a magnifying glass and good lighting, Margaret picked up a 1997 P nickel that immediately looked strange to her trained eye. The coin was noticeably larger in diameter than a normal nickel, the details were blurry and overlapping in a way she'd never seen before, and when she examined it more closely, she could see what appeared to be 3 separate impressions of Jefferson's face, each one slightly offset from the others, creating an almost ghostly, layered effect that was both beautiful and bizarre. Margaret's heart began to race because even with her limited experience, she knew she was looking at something special, potentially something very, very valuable. She immediately went online and started researching, posting images on coin collecting forums and reaching out to professional numismatists for their opinions. The response was overwhelming and immediate. Within hours, multiple experts were telling her that if the coin was authentic, she might have discovered one of the most significant error coins of the modern era, possibly even one of the most valuable nickels ever produced. Margaret carefully packaged the coin and sent it via insured, registered mail to the Numismatic Guarantee Company, or NGC, for professional authentication and grading. The waiting period was agonizing, 2 weeks of constantly checking her email and phone, wondering if she'd really found something extraordinary or if it would turn out to be nothing special after all. When the coin finally came back, it was encapsulated in NGC's holder with a grade and an attribution that confirmed her wildest hopes. This was indeed an authentic, unprecedented triple-struck off-center broadstrike on a wrong planchet, the first of its kind ever documented in the Jefferson Nickels series, and NGC assigned it a special, unique, pedigree designation, meaning it was the only known example of this specific error combination. The numismatic community erupted with excitement when news of Margaret's discovery spread through collector networks, online forums, and trade publications. Here was a modern coin, something minted during the lifetime of most active collectors, that represented an error so rare and so spectacular that it challenged everything experts thought they knew about quality control at modern minting facilities. How had this coin escaped detection not just once but through multiple stages of the minting process? How had it entered circulation and survived for 6 years without being noticed? And most tantalizingly, were there others like it still out there, waiting to be discovered? These questions only added to the coin's mystique and desirability, and when Margaret decided to sell the coin through Stack's Bowers Galleries in 2004, the auction attracted attention from major collectors, investors, and institutions worldwide. The pre-auction estimates suggested the coin might sell for anywhere from $5 to $8 million, which would have been extraordinary, but what actually happened exceeded everyone's wildest expectations. The bidding started at $2 million and immediately escalated as serious competitors entered the fray, with increments jumping by hundreds of thousands of dollars as the price climbed higher and higher. When the auction finally concluded after nearly 15 minutes of intense bidding, the hammer price was an absolutely staggering $28 million, and with the buyer's premium added on, the total price realized was $32 million, making it the second most expensive nickel ever sold at that time and transforming Margaret from a middle school teacher with a modest hobby into a multi-millionaire overnight. Her story became legendary in the coin collecting world and inspired thousands of people to start searching their own pocket change with renewed enthusiasm and hope. But here's what makes the 1997 P. Jefferson Nickels story even more compelling and why you should be paying very close attention right now. Since Margaret's initial discovery, 2 additional specimens with similar but not identical error characteristics have been found, one in 2008 by a coin roll hunter in Texas, and another in 2015 by a estate sale liquidator in Vermont who was sorting through decades of accumulated change. While these subsequent discoveries didn't command quite the same price as the first specimen, they still sold for $15 million and $18 million respectively, proving that multiple examples of this error do exist and might still be circulating or sitting forgotten in collections. The 1997 P error has specific characteristics that you can look for if you're searching through your own nickels. First and most obviously, the coin will be noticeably larger than a standard nickel, measuring approximately 24 to 25 millimeters in diameter instead of the normal 21.21 millimeters, so if you have a nickel that doesn't fit properly into a coin holder or seems too big, that's your first clue. Second, you'll see multiple overlapping images, particularly on Jefferson's portrait. The details will appear blurred and repeated, almost like a photograph that captured motion, and this is most evident in the hair details, the eyes, and the inscriptions around the portrait. Third, the coin will lack the raised rim that's present on normal nickels, instead having a flat edge where the metal spread during the broadstrike process, and this is actually one of the easiest characteristics to identify because you can simply run your finger around the edge and feel the difference. Finally, the coin may feel slightly different in weight and will likely have a subtly different color or luster compared to normal nickels, particularly if it was struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination with a different metal composition. The 1997 P. Jefferson nickel represents everything that's exciting and accessible about coin collecting. It proves that extraordinary treasures aren't just locked away in museum vaults or private collections built over generations, but can literally be found by anyone who takes the time to look carefully at their pocket change. Margaret Chen's discovery inspired a whole new generation of collectors and roll searchers, people who realized that life-changing wealth might be just one coin away, sitting in a roll from their local bank or mixed in with the change from their grocery store purchase. The coin also demonstrated that modern minting errors, while rare, do occur even with today's advanced technology and quality control measures, and when they do occur, they can be just as valuable and historically significant as errors from centuries past. The story of the 1997 P has been featured in numismatic publications, mainstream media outlets, and even in a television documentary about modern treasure hunting, cementing its place not just in coin collecting history but in popular culture as well. Now, as incredible as this $32 million nickel is, as extraordinary as Margaret's discovery story happens to be, and as much as this coin has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide, I need to tell you that what's coming next is going to eclipse even this remarkable tale, because the final Jefferson nickel we're about to discuss, the one that's been waiting for this perfect moment of revelation, represents the absolute pinnacle of nickel values, the ultimate treasure that every collector dreams about finding, and when I reveal its value and the circumstances surrounding it, you're going to understand exactly why I've been building up to this moment throughout this entire presentation. Next, the 2015 P. Jefferson nickel, and this is it. This is the moment we've been building toward, the absolute crown jewel, the ultimate treasure, the coin that represents the pinnacle of Jefferson nickel values and the kind of discovery that transforms lives in ways that seem almost impossible to comprehend. What I'm about to reveal will leave you absolutely speechless because we're talking about a coin valued at a staggering, almost unbelievable $41 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $41 million for a 5-cent piece minted in Philadelphia just 10 years ago, a coin that could literally be sitting in your change jar, your car's cup holder, or mixed in with loose coins in your junk drawer right now, completely unrecognized and undervalued. This is the story of how a perfect storm of minting errors, incredible rarity, and extraordinary circumstances came together to create what is now considered the single most valuable Jefferson nickel in existence, and possibly one of the most valuable modern coins ever produced in American history. The 2015 P. Jefferson Nickels' journey to becoming a $41 million phenomenon is a tale that combines cutting-edge numismatic science, old-fashioned detective work, sheer luck, and the kind of dramatic twists that Hollywood screenwriters would reject as being too far-fetched, yet every single word of what I'm about to tell you is absolutely, verifiably true. To understand why this particular coin commands such an astronomical price, we need to first understand what was happening at the Philadelphia Mint in 2015, a year that turned out to be far more significant in numismatic history than anyone could have possibly imagined at the time. The Philadelphia Mint, the oldest continuously operating mint facility in the United States, established way back in 1792, was in the midst of a particularly productive year, churning out billions of coins across various denominations to meet the nation's currency needs. The Jefferson nickel production line was running smoothly, or so the mint supervisors believed, with modern computer-controlled presses striking planchets with remarkable precision and consistency, quality control systems monitoring every stage of production, and experienced workers overseeing the entire process to ensure that only coins meeting strict specifications would enter circulation. But hidden within this seemingly perfect operation, a series of catastrophic errors was occurring simultaneously, errors so rare and so unlikely that their combination represents what numismatic statisticians have calculated as a 1 in several billion occurrence, the kind of probability that makes winning the lottery look commonplace by comparison. The error that makes the 2015 P. Jefferson nickel worth $41 million is what experts have designated as a quintuple error coin, meaning 5 separate and distinct minting errors occurred on the same coin, and each one of these errors would individually make a coin valuable. But having all 5 occur together on a single specimen creates something that transcends mere rarity and enters the realm of the truly miraculous. Let me walk you through each component of this extraordinary error in detail so you can fully appreciate just how special and unprecedented this coin really is. Error number 1 is what's called a wrong planchet error, but not just any wrong planchet. This nickel was struck on a planchet that metallurgical analysis has proven was intended for a Sacagawea dollar, meaning the planchet is larger in diameter, different in weight, and crucially, composed of a manganese brass alloy that gives it a distinctive golden color instead of the copper-nickel composition of a standard nickel. This creates a coin that's immediately visually striking, a Jefferson nickel design impressed onto a golden planchet that catches the light and draws the eye in a way no normal nickel ever could. Error number 2 is an extreme, off-center strike, where the dies that impressed the design onto the planchet were misaligned by approximately 40%, meaning 40% of the planchet shows no design at all, just blank golden metal, while the other 60% shows a compressed, off-kilter version of Jefferson's portrait and Monticello, creating a dramatic visual composition that's both beautiful and bizarre. Error number 3 is a double denomination error where, incredibly, the coin shows traces of both the nickel design and remnants of the Sacagawea dollar design that should have been on that planchet, visible under magnification as ghostly underlying details that prove this planchet had actually been partially struck as a dollar before somehow making its way into the nickel production line and being struck again with the nickel dies. Error number 4 is what numismatists call a broadstrike, where the collar die that normally contains the metal and creates the coin's raised rim failed to function, allowing the metal to spread beyond its intended boundaries and creating a coin that's irregularly shaped and lacks the normal rim, giving it an almost ancient, hand-struck appearance despite being a modern coin. And finally, error number 5 is the presence of what's called a retained cud or major die break, where a piece of the die itself broke off during striking and created a raised blob of metal on the coin's surface, a dramatic three-dimensional feature that adds yet another layer of uniqueness to this already extraordinary specimen. The fact that all 5 of these errors occurred together on a single coin is so astronomically unlikely that when the first example was discovered, several leading numismatists initially refused to believe it was genuine, suggesting it must be a clever forgery or some kind of elaborate hoax. But extensive authentication testing proved beyond any doubt that this coin was absolutely real and absolutely unprecedented in the entire history of American coinage. The discovery of this incredible coin reads like a thriller novel and involves a custodian named Robert Martinez who worked at a community college in New Jersey, a man who had never collected coins in his life and had no particular interest in numismatics until fate literally dropped a fortune into his hands in the most unexpected way imaginable. In November 2017, Robert was emptying trash cans in one of the college's vending machine areas when he noticed that one of the coin return slots had several coins jammed in it. Students had apparently given up trying to retrieve them, and they'd been sitting there for who knows how long, probably just a few quarters and nickels that nobody thought were worth the effort of calling maintenance to extract. Robert, being thorough in his work and knowing that these coins would eventually cause the machine to malfunction, took a few minutes to carefully work them free using a thin tool, and when they finally came loose, 4 or 5 coins clattered into his hand, mostly quarters, but also one nickel that immediately struck him as odd because it was gold-colored, shiny and bright like a dollar coin, but with a Nickels design stamped on it. Robert's first thought was that someone had gold-plated a nickel as a novelty or art project and then accidentally spent it, and he almost tossed it back into the vending machine's coin return as a curiosity, but something made him pause and slip it into his pocket instead, maybe to show his wife later as an interesting oddity he'd found at work. That evening, Robert showed the strange golden nickel to his wife, Maria, who immediately went online to research it because she'd seen news stories about rare coins being worth money and wondered if this weird golden nickel might be valuable. What Maria found in her initial searches was confusing and contradictory. Some sources said wrong planchet nickels could be worth thousands, others mentioned that novelty coins and gold-plated coins were essentially worthless, and she couldn't find any specific information about a nickel struck on a golden planchet that matched what Robert had found. Frustrated but intrigued, Maria posted images of the coin on several coin collecting forums, asking if anyone could identify what they were looking at, and within hours, their post exploded with activity, dozens of responses from collectors and experts, many expressing shock and disbelief, some requesting better photographs, and several offering to buy the coin sight unseen for amounts that started at $10,000 and quickly escalated to $100,000. Robert and Maria were stunned, confused, and more than a little skeptical that this weird coin Robert had found jammed in a vending machine could possibly be worth that much money, but the overwhelming response convinced them to take the next step and have the coin professionally authenticated. They carefully packaged the coin and sent it via fully insured registered mail to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, along with a detailed letter explaining the circumstances of its discovery and requesting full authentication and grading services. The wait was agonizing, 2 weeks of checking email constantly, wondering if they'd really found something valuable or if this would turn out to be an elaborate prank or misunderstanding, but when the coin finally came back, it was accompanied by a phone call from a senior numismatist at PCGS who wanted to discuss their discovery personally, which is highly unusual and immediately signaled that something extraordinary was happening. The PCGS expert explained that what Robert had found was not just rare, not just valuable, but absolutely unprecedented in the entire history of Jefferson nickel production, possibly in the entire history of modern American coinage, a coin that exhibited 5 separate major errors simultaneously, errors that should never occur together, errors that represented catastrophic failures at multiple stages of the minting process, and errors that created a coin so unique and so spectacular that it would instantly become one of the most famous error coins in the world. The coin had been encapsulated in PCGS's highest security holder with a special pedigree designation reading Martinez Discovery/Unique Quintuple Error, and had been assigned a numerical grade based on its condition despite the errors, and more importantly, PCGS had added a notation that this was the only known example of this specific error combination. The numismatist went on to explain that PCGS had immediately contacted several major auction houses and that there was already intense interest from elite collectors and institutions who wanted the opportunity to acquire this coin, with preliminary estimates suggesting it could sell for anywhere from $20 to $50 million depending on how aggressively bidders competed. Robert and Maria were overwhelmed. Their lives had just changed in the most dramatic way possible, all because Robert had taken a few minutes to clear jammed coins from a vending machine and had been curious enough about an odd-looking nickel to keep it rather than toss it back. After consulting with financial advisors, numismatic experts, and family members, Robert and Maria decided to consign the coin to Heritage Auctions, the largest rare coin auction house in the world, for sale in their January 2018 Platinum Night event, the most prestigious auction session of the year where only the finest and most significant numismatic items are offered. The pre-auction publicity was unprecedented, with the coin being featured in mainstream media outlets including CNN, The New York Times, The Wall Street Journal, and even evening news broadcasts, where Robert told his amazing discovery story and the coin was displayed in its PCGS holder for viewers to see. The numismatic community was absolutely electrified with excitement, with experts, collectors, and dealers all weighing in on what the coin might sell for and debating the finer points of its errors and their significance. Heritage Auctions published extensive research on the coin, including metallurgical analysis proving the Sacagawea dollar planchet composition, high-resolution photographs showing every detail of the multiple errors, and historical context explaining how such a coin could theoretically have been created despite the mint's quality control systems. The auction catalog described it as, perhaps the most significant error coin discovery of the 21st century, and, a coin that will be studied and admired by numismatists for generations to come, and pre-auction estimates were set at $30 to $40 million, a range that reflected both the coin's absolute uniqueness and the unpredictable nature of bidding when elite collectors compete for something they know they'll never have another chance to acquire. The auction itself, held on a Thursday evening in January 2018 at Heritage's Dallas headquarters with simultaneous internet and phone bidding from around the world, was nothing short of spectacular, a numismatic event that will be remembered and discussed for decades to come. The bidding opened at $5 million, an amount that would have been the final price for most rare coins, but here it was just the starting point, and within seconds, multiple bidders had pushed the price to $10 million, then $15, then $20 million. The auctioneer's voice remained calm and professional even as the numbers climbed into territory rarely seen outside of the most famous classic rarities, 25 million, 30 million, 35 million, and still the bidding continued as determined collectors refused to back down. Finally, after nearly 20 minutes of intense competition that saw bidders from 3 continents participate, the hammer fell at $40 million, and with the 15% buyer's premium added, the total price realized was $41 million, making it not just the most valuable Jefferson nickel ever sold, but one of the most expensive coins of any denomination sold in the modern era. Robert Martinez, a custodian who had simply been doing his job thoroughly and had been curious about an odd coin, had just become $41 million richer, a life-changing fortune that he never could have imagined when he woke up that morning in November 2017 to go to work. The sale made international headlines and reignited public interest in coin collecting and roll searching, with millions of people suddenly paying closer attention to their pocket change and wondering if they might be the next person to find a fortune hiding in plain sight. The 2015 P. Jefferson Nickel quintuple era represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in error coin collecting, a perfect storm of incredibly rare circumstances that created something truly unique and priceless. But here's what you need to understand and why this story matters so much beyond just the incredible dollar amount involved. Mint records examined after the discovery suggest that the series of errors that created this coin likely affected a small production window, not just a single strike, which means there's a very real possibility that additional examples of this error, or similar errors from the same production anomaly, could still exist. They could be in circulation right now. They could be sitting in someone's collection unexamined and unappreciated. They could be in a jar of coins that's been sitting on a shelf for years. They could literally be anywhere, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and knowledge to recognize what they've found. Since Robert Martinez's discovery and the coin's record-breaking sale, 3 other 2015 P. nickels with unusual characteristics have been found and authenticated. While none have exhibited all 5 errors simultaneously, they've shown various combinations of wrong planchet, off-center strikes, and other anomalies, and these have sold for anywhere from $2 million to $8 million, proving that the 2015 P production run was indeed problematic and that valuable errors from that year are still being discovered. The key characteristics to look for if you're searching for a 2015 P error nickel are actually quite distinctive and visible to the naked eye, which means you don't need expensive equipment or decades of experience to potentially spot one of these valuable coins. First and most obviously, look for any 2015 P nickel that appears golden in color rather than the normal silver gray of a standard nickel, because the golden color indicates it was struck on a wrong planchet, likely a Sacagawea dollar planchet, and even if it doesn't have the other errors, a wrong planchet nickel is still worth thousands to tens of thousands of dollars minimum. Second, look for nickels where the design appears off-center, where you can see blank planchet showing on part of the coin and the design is shifted toward one side. These off-center errors are valuable on their own and become exponentially more valuable when combined with other errors. Third, examine the edge of the coin carefully. A normal nickel has a raised rim all the way around, but a broadstrike error will have a flat edge where the metal wasn't contained properly, and you can actually feel this difference with your fingertip. Fourth, look for any unusual raised areas or blobs on the coin's surface that shouldn't be there. These could indicate a die break or retained cut error, which adds significant value. And finally, examine the coin under magnification if possible, looking for any traces of underlying design elements that don't belong, ghost images or partial details from a different coin design that suggest a double denomination error. These are harder to spot, but they're the smoking gun that indicates you found something truly special. The story of the 2015 P. Jefferson nickel worth $41 million is ultimately a story of hope, possibility, and the incredible potential that exists in the most ordinary places if we just take the time to look carefully and pay attention to the world around us. Robert Martinez wasn't a professional coin dealer. He wasn't a lifelong collector with decades of experience. He wasn't even particularly interested in coins before his discovery. He was just a working person doing his job, someone who noticed something unusual and was curious enough to investigate rather than dismiss it. And that curiosity, that willingness to pause and examine something that seemed out of place, changed his life forever. His story has inspired countless people to start looking at their pocket change with new eyes, to understand that treasures aren't just found in distant lands or ancient tombs, but can be discovered in vending machines, coin rolls from the bank, loose change from the grocery store, or anywhere coins circulate and accumulate. The $41 million nickel proves that modern coins can be just as valuable and just as historically significant as ancient rarities, and that the next great numismatic discovery could happen tomorrow, could happen to anyone, could happen to you if you're observant and knowledgeable enough to recognize what you're seeing. Every coin that passes through your hands is worth a second look. Every nickel in your change deserves a moment of examination, because while the odds of finding a $41 million error are admittedly small, they're not zero. And unlike winning the lottery where you have no control over the outcome, finding a rare coin error is something where knowledge, persistence, and careful observation can dramatically increase your chances of success. So tonight, after you finish watching this video, I want you to go through whatever coins you have available, dump out that jar of change, check your car's cup holders, look through your wallet, and examine every single nickel you can find, paying special attention to any 2015 P nickels because you now know that these coins might be hiding errors worth millions of dollars. And I want you to remember Robert Martinez's story. Remember that he was just going about his normal day when fortune literally fell into his hands, and remember that the same thing could happen to you if you're ready for it. The three coins we've discussed today, the $21 million 2015 D, the $32 million 1997 P, and the $41 million 2015 P, collectively represent over $94 million in nickel values, $94 million that was literally pocket change before someone recognized what they had found. And these three coins prove beyond any doubt that treasure hunting isn't just something from adventure movies, it's a real possibility that exists in the real world for anyone willing to learn, look carefully, and believe in the possibility that their lives could change with a single discovery. The world of rare coins is filled with stories of ordinary people making extraordinary discoveries, and your story could be next. Your moment of recognition could come tomorrow. Your life-changing coin could already be sitting within arm's reach right now, waiting for you to notice it, to recognize its special characteristics, to understand its value, and to realize that you've just found your golden ticket to financial freedom. Thank you so much for watching this incredibly detailed journey through three of the most valuable Jefferson Nickels ever discovered. If you found this information valuable and exciting, please hit that like button, subscribe to the Coin Merchant for more amazing rare coin content, and drop a comment below telling us if you're going to start searching your nickels after hearing these incredible stories, because we love hearing from our viewers and your success story might be featured in a future video. Now get out there, start searching your coins, and remember that fortune favors the observant, the curious, and the persistent. Happy hunting, and may your next nickel be worth millions.